Good afternoon, viewers, and welcome to Matters of Public Importance on Channel 6. I'm Gail Teixeira, Opposition Chief Whip representing the Members of Parliament for the People's Progressive Civic and the People's Progressive Party. On this program, we shall focus on matters of public importance, bringing you information, discussions on issues and matters that are of concern to you, the Guyanese public, every Thursday between 12:30 and 1:30, right here on Channel 6. Well, we met last June the 2nd, and we had a lot of discussions on the independence and a number of issues to do with the economy. Well, the economy is still in the focus today, in the sense that things aren't looking good at all. We keep having more and more evidence of the economy going down. And the fact that this government seems to want to live in a cocoon and not recognize that we have a problem in this country, that business isn't growing. In fact, business is becoming smaller. Economic activity is not taking place. And therefore, if you don't have economic activity, you don't have the creation of wealth, and therefore you have a downslide with the economy and also worsening of conditions of the people of our country. And so this week, what have we heard? What has taken place since last we met? Well, you know, since the budget 2016, we have now these 140 tax measures, which are now beginning to kick in as people get their licenses and driver's license, their fitness, their car license, their registration, and all the other things, including the horse cart men and the persons who have minibuses, taxis, and so on. This is now beginning to kick in, and people now beginning to recognize how this will affect them and how this will impact on them. But in addition to that, we have new announcements and new confusion in terms of what's going on. And let's deal with a couple of those. You know, we are hearing, as of yesterday, that the tolls will be increased for the Demerara Harbour Bridge. This came about by an announcement by the Director of Public Information that this would happen. And so people, why wouldn't we believe it? This is from the Ministry of the Presidency and the Prime Minister's office. However, Minister Patterson and the Ministry of Public Infrastructure has denied that this is the case. And in fact, the board and the chairman of the board are inaccessible to ascertain, is this so? Did this matter go from the board to the cabinet, and has the cabinet approved it? And if that is so, why aren't they saying anything about it? So, but you know, again, confusion. Who's saying what on behalf of whom? But you know, last night I went on to the Prime Minister's website. He has a website in which you can check what's going on. It's a Facebook website. And so you can see what people are writing and what he's writing on a number of issues. And so last night, in relation to increases in tolls to cross the Demerara Harbour Bridge, this is the heading, he says, on June the 8th, you need to place on the table that unless you have a cost recovery, you will not be able to maintain the bridge or any other bridge. That's what he said last evening. So again today there's denial that the tolls are not going to be increased. But this is having a ripple effect in their country, in that people want to know. The thousands of people who cross every day coming from Region 3, many times come further from Region 2 and from Region 7. They all use that path to cross over and to come into Georgetown or to go to other parts of the country. So the number of commuters who travel on that bridge is huge. And in fact, the bridge board stated that they had made over, I think it was over 400, almost 500, and let me get the figure, $481 million were collected in revenue for 2015, an increase of 4.2% over 2014. So that they were showing that they're not in the red, definitely, like other state agencies, like Isuko, for example, but this is an agency that is making money. And in fact, when we go to the budget debate of February 2016, when we were looking at the estimates, Bishop Wanejil, the Member of Parliament for the People's Progressive Party, questioned the minister about whether there were going to be any planned increases, or was there going to be any increase in the tolls for the Demerara Harbour Bridge. And of course, and I'll just read from you just so you can see that this actually, it's not my creation, it's actually in the Hansard. This is the verbatim records of the Parliament that are published in little booklets for each sitting. And so the Bishop Edghill says, We are also told, by way of a public announcement, that there's consideration for the increased rates for the Demerara Harbour Bridge. Could the Honourable Minister update this House on this matter? The Minister responds, the 150 million for servicing a pontoon at 80 million, the fabrication of buoys at 25 million, the supply of sheaves and shackles at 20 million, and the rehabilitation of the hydraulic retractor span of 25 million. That is 150 million. There is no paper in front of Cabinet or anyone for the increase of rates. Is that the answer to your question, sir? Bishop come back again and says, yes, sir, we were advised by way of the media when the board was sworn in that there was a Cabinet paper for an increase of rates at the Demerara Harbour Bridge. This to and froing goes on for a few minutes between the Minister and the Member of Parliament. And then, again, Bishop says, what we want to find out is, if we're giving money for a capital item, will there still be an increase in the rates, that is, the tolls? The Minister then responds again. There is no Cabinet paper before the Cabinet on the increase of fees for the Demerara Harbour Bridge. So, that is of February 2016. As far as we know, the Minister denied it. And remember, in 2015, during the debate on the 2015 budget in August, the opposition members asked, was there going to be an increase in ministers' salaries? We had picked up that the Cabinet had agreed to the increase of ministers' salaries. They vociferously denied it. The budget debate ended on August the 28th. On September the 25th, in the official gazette, the increase of salaries for the ministers, the President, the Prime Minister, was published during the recess of the Parliament. So one has a problem in this country of, trusting. Who's telling the truth in this place? Why would there be an announcement by the ministers, the Prime Minister's Director of Public Information, that there were going to be increases in the tolls for Demerara Harbour Bridge? And then you have another minister and another agency denying it. And this is what's causing confusion in this country. And one doesn't know whether this is ineptitude, incompetence, that left hand doesn't know what right hand's doing, or is it a strategy to confuse all of us poor people that we don't know what's going on in our country, and then suddenly you end up with a fait accompli that the rates or the toll have been increased. And if the announcement by the Director of Public Information in relation to the increases that stated that motorcycles and motor cars were going to be increased by 100%, why were SUVs not included? Why were commercial vehicles not included? Why would one focus on motorcycles? This is the ordinary man putting his child on the back of his motorcycle and taking it to school, or taking his wife to work, or whatever he's doing to cross over the bridge. And by stating cars, we know that taxi men use more cars to the regular cars to transport people. So we want to know, are there going to be increases in the tolls for Demerara Harbour Bridge? Someone needs to say to the Guyanese people, yes or no. But in addition to that, wouldn't it also be fair for us who are the electorate to consider that a major issue in increasing the tolls on a major access bridge that links the country, not just Region 3 and 4, would be the subject of some discussion, some consultation, some radio program, television program to get viewers' responses? Wouldn't that be a nice thing to do for a change, instead of these confusing decisions that are made by the government in which no one has had a clue of what's going on? And who will suffer in all of this? Who are going to be the victims in all of this? Because if it is so that they are going to be increasing the tolls, then it is the ordinary people who will feel the pinch, because the taxi men bringing people over are going to increase the amount of money you pay to join a taxi or to come across. And so this will increase the cost of living for people. In addition to that, we have to remember, don't forget, my dear viewers, that from April 2012 to 2015 elections, the plank of the PNC, their major plank, was that the Berbice Bridge tolls had to be reduced. They made this a major plank of their platform at the elections in support of the Region 6 and Region 5 people. And they was an election promise, and it's actually one of the few election promises they've kept out of the major document that they gave as their manifesto to the people before they got into office. So, on the one hand, you reduce the tolls on the Berbice Bridge, in which the government is subsidizing the difference that the Berbice Bridge Board is losing as a result of the reduction in the tolls for Berbice Bridge. So the government is paying the company, subsidizing this reduction. And yet on Demerara Bridge, which is not in the red, that has been making money, and in which the government puts the capital budget for the bridge to maintain it, the pontoons and have to be maintained, and every now and again a ship hits it and you have a problem, you have to fix it. So there's money in the budget every year for the Demerara Bridge to be able to maintain itself. It's particularly in what are major big cost centers for the Demerara Harbour Bridge. So what is the difference in this? Why would you do a reduction on the Berbice Bridge and subsidize and pay the company, the corporation that runs the Berbice Bridge, because of the difference in what was being charged and what you're now charging? And in Demerara Bridge, you're talking about withdrawal. And you're now talking, as the Prime Minister says, you have to have cost recovery. You've always had cost recovery in the Demerara Harbour Bridge. People have always paid tolls to cross it. What we're not talking about is the cost recovery. It is there and has been there for decades. The issue is that there's an increase in the toll. And so this very confusing, left hand doesn't know what right hand's doing, and you're doing something in Berbice Bridge because it was your election campaign, and now what is it? What are you doing to the people of Region 3 and 2 and 7, who, and even 1, who in many cases rely on crossing to come into the city, and on sometimes to go further, continue to Region 10, Region 9, Region 8, and Region 5 and 6. It is a major access point. And so again, what does this all mean and why are they doing this? But on top of that, as if that's not enough, if the taxation measures that they've introduced are not enough, if this now confusion of are there going to be tolls increases on Demerara Harbour Bridge or not, we have additional one, and that is the sudden announcement of the increase in the fuel prices. Now remember, in the budget debate in 2016, the opposition argued very vehemently for a reduction in the cost of fuel in the country because the world prices had dropped, and in fact the government was making enormous surpluses as a result of charging previous old higher rates when in fact the price of fuel had dropped globally. So they announced that this would come into effect, and it has been in effect maybe 6 to 8 weeks that the price came down a bit for gasoline, for dieseline, for cooking gas and stuff like that. And at the wave of a magic wand, it's gone back up. And they're saying to you that the global price has gone up. The global price for fuel has gone up by an infinitesimal amount. It is not a large amount. It is a very small increase. And in fact, all the projections are showing that the prices for globally for oil will not go up in a large way in 2016. So now you've got taxation measures, you've got the threat of a toll increase for Demerara Harbour Bridge, you have now, in addition to that, the increase on the fuel prices. This again worsens the situation for the cost of living for the ordinary Guyanese people. It increases cost and other problems for the business community. And let me just give you an example. You know I go to Lethem every now and again. I love Rupununi. It is beautiful. And if you ever get a chance and you can ever afford to get on one of those buses that go into the interior, do it. It's wonderful. Guyana's beautiful, you know. But thankfully they've had rain, so it's now looking a bit greener. Not the Apno Grey, of course, but it's looking a lot greener. And so the earth is not scorched like it was before for the 8 months, 9 months where they weren't getting rain. So there has been a slight improvement in the access to the water. However, I had to get fuel for the vehicle I was in, and we stopped at a gas station in Lethem, and I saw on the notice that the gasoline was $230 and on the diesel was $200. And I thought that was the increase. And I was told by everybody, no, that's not the increase. That's what it has been all the time. And that they're now worried, of course, that with the increase, where will it go? To 230, to 260, to 250, etc. And of course, this will increase the cost of living in the interior as well. So that you have the fuel prices going up. And then we're all hearing in Georgetown. In a sense, I'm glad I no longer live in Georgetown, seriously. And this city council seems to have penchant for just doing all sorts of things at the flip of a hat. So we're now hearing about what you call parking meters. Well, I'm not sure that Georgetown is ready for parking meters. And in fact, one would have thought that there were other options that could be sought after. But you know what? I read something in the papers today that made me wonder that this parking meter story and the difference between what seems to be an apparent disagreement between the mayor and the deputy mayor more has to do with the issue of who gets the work and who is the company that's going to get this contract to put in these parking meters than the issue of whether we should be doing it or not and how we're going to do it. And why shouldn't the people of this city be consulted? Why shouldn't they have consultations, forums, invite people to the city hall and bottom house meetings and go to the schools in the different parts of the city, invite the public and get their views on this parking meter story instead of, just announcing that parking meters and they're working in this direction. And as I said, I can only judge from the newspaper reports that there seems to be some disagreement between the two persons at the top of the city council as who gets to work, which company gets to work. But they have to have an assessment first, an evaluation first, of how it will be done, where it will be done, and how it will work. Again, this reactive, knee-jerk reaction is not helpful to this country and will not help this country to move forward. Going back to places like Lethem, when we talk about the economy going down, you go along Regent Street, you go talk to the businessmen of this country, they'll all tell you that business has dropped badly. Go to the restaurants, evening, nightclubs or whatever, same thing, things have dropped. When the big entertainment shows are being held, the attendance has dropped, even for cricket, for example. And so, this is an indication that people don't have money. Money is not circulating. People don't have money. You go to the hairdressers, you go to the people who do their nails and stuff like that, business has dropped. There was a little increase during independence, it has dropped. And so, these are indications. Is the government living in a cocoon, doesn't want to see? Is it pretending, when they say the famous thing about, see no evil, hear no evil, talk no evil. It's almost as if they're living in that world where they don't want to know. And the attitude of, if we don't know there's a problem, we don't have to be forced to answer it. And we don't have to be forced to deal with it. Just like how they're treating the rice industry, the sugar industry, this is an indication of what they're doing. So, again, here is Gaiwa, the Guyana Water Inc., going to Lethem to introduce water rates in the Lethem municipality. Lethem has never had rates for water, and with the new treatment plant and stuff like that, there has been a radical improvement in the quality of water and people being able to have an easier life. So, Gaiwa goes up and has a meeting which is very poorly attended because it's poorly advertised, to discuss with people that they're going to be introducing rates and taxes in Lethem. However, when you take Georgetown people and you put them to do things in a region which they're not familiar with, they've not surveyed, they've not spoken to people, they've not consulted people, they then start to do rather strange things. Because what they seem to be unaware about is that in Lethem, many of the business places have their own wells. They're not taking water from, let's say, from the Guyana Water Inc. And in fact, their proposal for the rates is based on the size of the property and the size of the building rather than what the entity does. So you could have a very small little restaurant who uses a lot of water versus a shop that sells dry goods and therefore does not use the same rate of water. But it may be a bigger store, so they're going to pay more. These are one wonders why this level of incompetence, why this level of just not appreciating the nuances in our country and the way people live, and to be able to do proper homework before they dive headfirst in, and the main thrust is collect, collect, collect. Bring more money, bring more money. But one has to ask, what's happened to the $220 billion that was passed in the budget just a few months ago? What has happened to the money? Because you're hearing in some ministries that things are running out and they don't have money for this and they don't have money for that. But only in February 26th, the budget was passed of $220 billion. So they can't complain like in 2015, they only had a few months to implement the budget. And we still don't know how much money was actually returned to the budget of the 2015, to the consolidated fund of the 2015 budget. And the Minister of Finance has come to the Parliament wanting $799.8 million more for the period September to December 2015. And we haven't debated yet because he refuses to name a date when we should be debating it in violation of the standing orders. So that we have these issues that are taking place. And of course, the next thing you hear about is a container on taxes by the City Council. Again, no consultation. Again, it seems that the City Council is just pulling rabbits out of the hat and deciding to jump all over the place, just like a little rabbit. But the concern of the people. The 3 months is going to be coming to an end in terms of the vendors in the Starbuck market. Where are they going? Has anyone spoken to them? Have they reached an agreement? Are they going to change their mind? Because according to the number one person in this country, that they're not going back to the Starbuck market. So where are they going? Where are they going to go? Or is it that hundreds of people are going to be put out of their livelihood? And the majority of those people are women. The majority of vendors in Guyana are women for the markets, whether it is Starbuck, whether it is Kitty, whether it is Border, whether it's Isla Penitence, whether it is Lusignan, whether it is Maripo, the majority of vendors are women. And a lot of those women are single parents. So what are they going to do about this? You know, today you may think I'm ranting and raving and so on because these things really get me upset, and they get us upset in the People's Progressive Party Civic. Because in a time of downturn, in a time of economic downturn, governments have a responsibility, morally, politically, to be able to cushion the impact on the people, particularly the poor and vulnerable. They have a moral and political responsibility to do that. And if you remember in 2008, during the global financial and economic crisis, we brought a number of measures in to cushion the impact of what was a global crisis. And it also involved, so we brought in incentives, we had a sliding scale on the fuel prices, we reduced the different taxes on fuel. Public servants got an additional $5,000 a month. In addition to that, there were salary increases. In addition to that, we removed the VAT on a number of essential items to ensure that people weren't feeling the squeeze. What is the government doing? Their answer seems to be tax, tax, and more tax. Tax at the local government election, tax at the central level. And if we listen to the speeches, this whole talk about local government being independent and being able to modernize and do these things, forgive me, but it appears when I read between the lines that it's really saying to these new NDCs and municipalities, you're up on your own, you can make it or not. Tax the people, bring in new taxes, new rates and taxes, and so forth. Just like the City Council is talking about these issues of container tax. And the gentleman who speaks for the PR of the City Council misrepresented the issue. There's never been an agreement to have a tax on containers in this country. Certainly it's an issue that needs to be addressed. I don't blame City Council for discussing and wanting to find a solution. But tax and doing it the way they are is not going to manage it. All you're going to do is stifle now, choke off goods coming into the city. Just like with the border market, you're making it difficult for the farmers to bring their vehicles down to offload at border market. And therefore, what is the repercussion? The cost for the items go up. We're going around in a vicious circle because the first thing that has to be tackled is the economy. How is this government going to stimulate the economy? How is it going to generate economic activity in order to create wealth, in order to improve the conditions of lives of our people? We talked about last year, when we looked at the 2015 budget and the 2016 budget, about the removal of the We Care program, the $10,000 for each family, each child that was registered in school. This has had a major impact on people and their families, because most families don't just have one child. Some have 3, 5, 7, 10, 11. And once their children in school. And it is the government, then opposition, that said the money was too miserly, that the money should have been more, $50,000. Well, they're in government. Why did they not make it $50,000? In fact, they threw it out the window and said they would not bring it in. The school uniform program. School is coming to an end soon. I'd like to see, and I'd like to know from you, because the vouchers are supposed to be given out before school closes for the August holidays. So I'd be interested to know, you women out there and mothers who have children in school and grandmothers, check on it. Ask the teachers and the principals, when are the vouchers going to come for the school uniforms? Because last year, the excuse was the budget was passed late, so they couldn't have done it. And therefore, many schools didn't get, some schools got, and many parts of the interior did not get any. And then we go to the school feeding program, which was established in Region 9 as a pilot years ago. It worked very, very well, and it was a way of integrating the villages in agricultural activity, providing food for the schools and being paid, for the women sewing the uniforms and being paid, and being able to generate a whole range of economic activity, including, the main thing was to get children to attend school with their bellies having food in it so they could concentrate. Well, I visited one of the villages while I was there recently in Lethem, and they were told on Friday that the school feeding program is over. It's gone. It's finished. There's no money. It can't be done. And this is going to filter into the other villages of Rupununi. Why is it that the poorest people in this country who live in the interior are the ones that seem to be made the victims in these decisions and actions of this government? Why? They came on the backs of people saying they were going to increase the salaries of the ordinary working people and the public servants. They made promises. It is over a year, and now that the public service Commission of Inquiry report is in, all the unions who are involved in the public service, as well as public service, are anxiously awaiting all this. So are the police and the soldiers and the prison officers and the firemen, because we understand from number one that you can't give these discipline services increases because there have to be equivalencies in the public service, between the public service and the discipline services. So we wait. In the meantime, the conditions of our people is worsening, and we're seeing an increase in poverty. We're seeing an increase in people leaving the country. And again, as I keep saying, this government's behaving like Pontius Pilate. Wash their hands and pass the problem on. And who are they blaming? They're blaming the PPP as if we're still in government. We're not in government. And I keep telling them in Parliament, you're the government, fix it. Don't worry about what we did. Whether we did right or wrong, we did it the right way, we did it the wrong way. You are now in government. You have the power. You fix it. And do it, fix it in the interests of the ordinary people of this country, so that whatever gains we had as a people, that they won't lose it. Regrettably, we're losing it. That many of the gains people had, because we're seeing more and more defaulting of people with their loans in the commercial banks for housing, for people who borrowed money to build their houses or to buy under the core program and so on. And we're seeing too a reduction in actual numbers of applications that are being processed at the Central Housing and Planning. There are thousands of people waiting for their title that paid and got their sale of agreement prior to May 2015 who are still waiting. People can't go and build unless they're able to get their title. They can go to a bank and they can borrow. But if you don't give their title, and at the same time you're talking about seizing and occupying, just like the mayor of Georgetown is talking about You haven't paid your rates and taxes, so we're going to seize your property. But why isn't City Council telling to the people of this country how many write-offs they gave to, and to whom they gave write-offs to, who owed millions and millions of dollars to this city, but who many of them were also financiers of the APNU AFC election campaign. Millions of dollars write-off was given by the City Council. Why can't we know who those people are? And yet you're saying to people that if you owe, we'll seize your property. Ridiculous. I'm not saying that if people have been delinquent for a long time and they owe millions and millions of dollars, they should be taken to court. And they should be made to pay and to have a payment plan or whatever is required. But you can't put everybody in the same box. You might have some lady living in a house in Kitty or in South who hasn't paid her rates of taxes. You owe $10,000 and $20,000 and $30,000. You're going to seize that property when you're given write-offs to your party financiers for millions of dollars owed to the City Council? No. That is not just. There's no justice there. And people have to be able to express themselves and to say, look, we're not opposed to paying our rates and taxes. Things have been hard. Can we work out a payment schedule so we can try to catch up on our payment? But you can't go from people owing a year or two or whatever it is to then seizure of property. Property is a very sacrosanct thing under our constitutional laws, and so this has to be dealt with very carefully. I've been talking a lot of things, and I'm sure that there are many issues you have to raise too, so that we have the same lines as the last time, 225-0010 and 225-0008. Please feel free to call in and tell me what your views are about these new developments. And as I said to you the last time, and I repeated it again, how do you feel after 1 year of this government? Are your lives better or worse off, or there's no difference? Do you feel confident that the government has a vision of where it's taking this country? And if so, what do you think that vision is? And the last question, name one single thing that the government has done in the last 12 months which has had the biggest impact on your lives, you and your family's lives. You know, so I keep repeating these questions. I keep wanting to hear your views on this. But obviously, so between the last time we met, June the 2nd, and today, we are hearing about toll increases. We have the fuel increases, the cost of fuel going up. We have talk about container taxes by the City Council. We have talk of parking meters by the City Council. And we have the kicking in of the tax measures that were passed in February 28th. And so people are beginning to feel the squeeze, seriously. And you have businesses closing down. You have people sending home workers. If you only process, a small number of housing applications, and by the Minister of Housing herself, gave an indication in the press recently about the number of applications they're processing. In the PPP time, 12,000 applications were processed annually. They're down to probably about 3,000-4,000 annually now, and in which they have thus far, both in 2015 and now, probably approved about 1,400. So obviously that will have an impact on the construction industry, on the number of tradesmen who make cement blocks, the plumbers, the electricians, and so forth. And so people are out of work. People are losing their jobs, not just in the public service where the government fired 1,972 Amerindian community service officers at one fell swoop. The largest group to have lost their jobs in this country since this government got in was the 1,972 Amerindian community service officers. For what reason? They claim was that these people were hired to help us in the election campaign. These people were hired in the end of 2013 and early 2014, when we had no idea there was going to be an election. Because, as you remember, our term of office was to go to 2016. And so these persons were hired to help the village councils, the Amerindian village councils, to facilitate representation on behalf of the people. The Minister of Indigenous Affairs has now said he abandoned that program and he's bringing in a new program, which is called HAZE, Hinterland Entrepreneurial Youth Skills. With the budget that was given last year to Indigenous Affairs, 40 people were selected and to be trained in Region 8. Last week, the program was introduced at St. Ignatius by the minister. Introduced. No one has started being trained yet. It's June. The month is June. And so if you're going to train several hundreds of people, when are you going to get started? And in fact, this is a skills training program, not a program which gave employment and training to people under what was the PPP, Community Service Officers Program. People were given skills and so forth. And you know, as a former member of the cabinet, I know the figures that were presented to cabinet on over 13,000 Aberdeen households received solar panels so they could have electricity, because it was impossible to provide electricity to the villages and the houses in the villages because they're scattered. They're not on a grid system like Georgetown. They don't live all next door to each other. And so over 13,000 what was called household solar units were distributed, installed, ensured they were working in the Aberdeen villages. And I knew that figure, but it's when I've gone into the Aberdeen villages and seen the houses with the solar panels, and what a boon it has been for Aberdeen children studying when they come home to do their homework, to make life easier for the Aberdeen families and communities. The APNU AFC in the election campaign criticized this and said that the panels were too small. They should have big, huge panels and be able people could have anything they wanted in their house. Well, it's a year later. There were some solar panels still to be distributed in addition to the 13,000. Where are they? And why are they not being installed for the communities or parts of communities that we weren't able to complete before 2015? And so projects in the regions are being held back, particularly in regions where we have problems like Region 5, where one APNU member who seems to have an agenda, and a destructive agenda, that to ensure that the Region 5 people who voted enormously for the PPPC cannot have a region that functions, cannot have their projects to be put in place and their programs put in place. And then we have in Region 9 an REO that seems to think he's the governor of the region and that the regional chairman is his assistant. And so projects aren't moving there either. And so the picture is not a good one. It is not a good one on where this country is going. So I'm hoping that you will call in and that we'll be able to take your calls and hear your views. I'd be interested to know what you think about a number of these issues. Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to Matters of Public Importance. Good afternoon. Could you talk a bit louder for me?
I have something to say. I have a contribution.
Sure, go ahead.
The government say, the coalition government say that all of Guyana would enjoy the good life, but to me, only the ministers enjoy the good life because only them get the 50% raise in pay, and the next thing, they're closing down the estate and they don't have a plan to work with in which the people can get other jobs. So that is my opinion.
No, you're very right. I would not disagree with you whatsoever. In fact, you know, if you see the delegation that's going off to the June 10th investment conference in New York, half the cabinet or more than half the cabinet won't be here. In fact, I believe we're going to have an acting president, an acting prime minister. Thank you, caller. So that that one, yeah. That we will have a very depleted cabinet in the country for the next few days. In fact, the traveling expenses of these ministers are astronomical. All the expenses, the allowances were increased. Sorry, in June 2015. So the ministers' allowances for traveling for hotel and so on is much higher than under the People's Progressive Party. But worse yet is that they now they don't have to bring back receipts, they don't have to return money that is not used. And we're hearing about the rental of houses for ministers, even those that have their own houses, that are anywhere between $500,000 to $1 million a month, whereas under the PPP time, if a minister's house had to be rented for a minister because they lived out of town or whatever, it was approximately 180,000 around there. Nothing in the 500,000 range, I can assure you. So I agree with the caller. Those who are benefiting are a very elite group, and that certainly, to go back to sugar, which we discussed many times, they certainly seem to be knowing nothing what they're doing at Wales Estate and of course LBI Estate. So thousands of workers, jobs are at stake. They've already been dismissing people from Wales, and of course, you know, there's a court case in which the unions have challenged the Gaisuko based on the lack of consultation in relation to the workers of that estate. So that you're absolutely right. Let's see if I can get... Oops. Sorry, caller, before I missed your call because I was talking. Please try again. So that the elite group, many of the parliamentary committees, as you know, cannot meet because ministers are busy and traveling, and of course major decisions that have to be made with the FIU director and the selection of the deputy director, which has to relate to our compliance with FATF, is pending the return of many of these ministers and won't take place until June the 20th, for example. We don't have a fixed date for a sitting, so we are waiting to see when will there be a next parliamentary sitting. Will it be in the last week of June? Maybe. But then Guyana is the host of the heads of government of the CARICOM, and so that will take place July 4th to 6th, I believe, somewhere in there. And therefore, will it be, we have to wait until the 2nd of July, the second week of July, for a sitting of Parliament. So many people seem to be busy traveling, but we're still here in Guyana struggling. Good afternoon. Yeah. So I'm not very good again. This is a new instrument. It's working much better than last time, and I'm learning it. As you see, I'm what you say, technologically challenged, but it's a nice new instrument, and I'm hearing better, and it's working better. So we hope that those calls that were missed, that they will try again. We still have time on the program. So, you know too in Parliament that we asked, during the Parliament, we asked for the names of the persons who were pardoned by the President last year. And we did not get any of that information. We asked during the budget debate and so forth. Let me call this person's calling out of town. Hello, good afternoon. Matters of public importance, welcome to our program.
Yes, I'm calling from Mexico.
Yes.
And I would like to know that since this Jubilee, the line of forms that they put down spend so much of money, that since the Jubilee, this pump is hardly working. They said they don't have fuel.
Is this the Lima pump?
Yeah, the line pump.
Yeah,
Yeah, this water, they want to come online and direct 2 to 3 days and the pump work. Just giving the people them sickness.
Yes.
But I would like to this matter be solved.
And this is the pump that moves the water off the land, right?
Yes, definitely.
For the fields. Okay.
Yeah.
And do you know if this is under the region or central government, under NDIA?
I can't really see.
All right. I will call the regional chairman and try to find out if this is this pump comes under the NDIA or whether it comes under the region, so we can try to find out.
They don't have the fuel to work pump. It's rainfall and everything. Absolutely everything.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you. I will look into it. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, there are issues like this where sometimes they call it themselves and sometimes I'm not sure which is the agency that handles. Many of the big pumps that deal with drainage and irrigation, of course, come under the NDIA and not the regional administration and so forth. So I will need to find out. Hi, good afternoon. Matters of public importance. Welcome to our program.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
The poor class of people right now suffering more and more. My husband is doing more, and you ask the people in front $300 or $400 more, and they don't want to pay. And the poor class of people right now suffering terrible.
Yes, that's the point I'm making all the time. If you put up the price of fuel, the grass cutters use that, don't they?
Yes. Yes.
to cut the grass. And then when the grass cutters say to people, could you pay more? As they say, for every $100 you have to pay more, it adds up.
Yes.
Every time something goes up by 100, and they say, well, $100 not a laugh. But every time you increase something by $100, it adds up with other $100 to have a great impact on people's lives. And so, we talk about people in jobs, but there are also people like your husband who's self-employed. He's his own boss. He goes out and hustles to get work to bring home for his family. And of course, too, as people's money goes down, they also then say, look, I'm not going to cut the grass, maybe every month I'll maybe cut it every 2 months or every 6 weeks, because you can't afford. Also, they themselves are feeling the pinch as well. No? You don't agree?
Yes, and because you got children, like I got a son, I go to school, I got to find $4,000 a month for school bus alone. The boss man wouldn't want to wait for his money.
Exactly. He has a family to feed as well.
So the poor class of people right now suffering more and more day by day.
Yes, I agree with you. But you got to stay strong, and you have to be able to speak out and express yourself, and that sometimes we're going to have picketing and stuff like that to let the government know that they can't continue going down this road. It's hurting the people too much,
And the cost of living going up too. Every time you want broke $1,000, still barely buy 2 things, and you call home man with $1,000 finished.
Well, exactly. And I don't know what was the benefit of bringing in this $50 at all. I think it has cost the country money as well.
And the crime and everything keep going on. You're even safe in your own country. Like something you said to you left to go to town, you don't know if you're going to reach home back.
Yeah. No, it is. I've said on this program before that in 1 year, it's interesting and actually quite amazing how this country has gone from where there was hope, whether people like the People's Progressive Party or not. People were planning their lives and had hope, and they were saving and saying, okay, they would build their house or fix their roof or whatever. And now, a year later, people are demoralized. They feel that they don't know what they're doing, they don't know where they're going, and each time they hear of an increased tax or something else going up, they get very frightened and worried because they're barely making it now.
Yes, because sometimes you barely can make it to pay little bills and make ends meet, and sometimes you get so frustrated when, like how many have no weed and you can get more now.
Yeah, I understand. Anyway, thank you for calling, and I appreciate your views.
All right,
Thank you, dear. Bye-bye. All right, good afternoon.
Hello, good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon. Welcome. I'm glad to hear a man's voice.
Yes.
I mean, I like when the women call in. I'm very pleased when women call in, so don't think I'm going to...
Yeah, this government is a big problem right now. Hello?
Yes, I'm here. I'm listening to you.
Yeah, this government is a big problem now. We just sugar workers in the street of them right now.
You're a sugar worker.
Yeah.
What's
Carry
happening?
over week to and more. This morning we come home back them. Especially when you carry over to and more.
Will they have work or there's no work to be done? What are they
No
doing?
work to be done.
And of course, the sugar workers didn't get an increase last year.
Yeah, again,
They
nothing
denied
last
you
year.
your increase.
And we hold the bank, we get a loan from the bank.
Yeah. No, it's a sad situation.
Yes, and this government is a big problem right now.
But we have to, there are people suffering, and people have to be able to speak out as you're doing, as some of the other callers are doing. And I have this feeling, though, that the government just doesn't listen. I don't understand, even if they don't want to listen to people who are sympathizers and supporters of the PPP, for example, they have to be listening to their own supporters, because things are not right with them either. This is not only PPP supporters who are being targeted. Ordinary people, whoever they voted for, are really feeling the pinch. They're really having difficulties.
In fact, especially sugar workers, they want to go yesterday.
Yes, exactly.
I don't really sugar workers, you are supported the wrong way.
Yeah, and the thing is that what is shocking is that when they talk about Wales Estate and they announce they're going to close it down by the end of 2016,
Yeah.
and they have no plan of what they're going to do with Wales Estate. They have no idea what they're doing. Different ministers saying different things, but they still don't have a clue what they're doing with Wales Estate. Are they going to sell it? What are they doing? And so why did they rush to start laying off workers at Wales Estate? Why did they rush to announce that people, were going to lose their jobs and they're going to close down their estate when they have no clue what they're going to do? It's just gross incompetence at best, or is there some very sinister movement behind these people and what they're doing?
Yes, the sugar beet workers putting the pressure right now.
Yeah, absolutely, I
No impeachment
understand.
for last year, might get us for this year again.
Well, in the 70s and 80s, we used to come out and march and
Yeah.
picket. And when we were in government, people used to march and picket all over the place too.
Yeah.
So when a government doesn't want to listen, you use your feet. You know, you walk and protest and picket to show them that you have a problem. And so people used to protest and everything when the PPP was in government. We had many, in fact, we had some really serious situations which turned violent. But at the same time, under this government, they need to listen to the people.
Yeah.
And hopefully that will change it, but they seem not to want to listen to the people, that's all. As far as they're concerned, there's no problem in rice, none in sugar, none in the economy. Everything's fine. You are the people who have the problem. The people have the problem, not the government.
So you, the banks, will be the problem. Because you not get work for the sugar, they not give you work.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we had proposed to the government that they negotiate with the banks, particularly those people who have loans and small loans, to give them some ease and to reduce the interest rates and stuff like that, or give them a longer paying period. In this period, we proposed it with the rice industry and with the ordinary people who have housing loans and other loans and stuff like that. They have not done it. They just have not done it. And yet the banks are feeling it too, because the banks don't want a level of defaulters. It isn't good for a bank when they start having a lot of people defaulting because they can't pay.
Yes, you take over in government, you not work done, only cleaning the action and doing.
Well, even Georgetown. If you see Georgetown now with a little rain, you'll know that grasses grow. Cutting the grass don't mean they don't grow back. It all grown back with a little bit of rain. It is a never-ending job, and it requires an approach that's constant, and it's very expensive. So all the talk about Georgetown getting cleaned up, drive around Georgetown now, is only one or two parts, the mall and stuff that they're keeping clean, but the canals are back up, full of grass and desilted. It's the tropics, and you have to keep doing it all the time. So, hello? Oh yes, we're coming near the end. I just realized the time factor. I'll try to take one more call, one or two more calls, and then we'll start closing off, once we aren't too long. But yes, viewers, and it is sad. It is really sad to see what is happening to our country. As I said, and I've said on this program before, this program, I'm a PPP member. I'm a PPP member of Parliament. And yes, we are bringing this program to you. But we want you to understand the situation. We want you to also think about things. We're not telling you what you have to think. We're not telling you what you have to do. And we know that there are people who voted for APNO. They want to change. And we did say to people, not all change is good. You have good change, bad change, and ugly change. And what we're seeing in Guyana is not good change. As I said before, the government is morally and politically responsible as the elected body by the people, whether by good or bad means, whether by fraud or no means, or good means, that they have a duty and responsibility under the Constitution and morally to intervene, to save this economy, and to be able to help people who are suffering. It's their moral responsibility, and therefore they are not doing this. Just let me take one more call and then we'll close up. Yes, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yes, matters of public importance. Can I help you?
Calling concerning the bank.
The bank?
Yeah. I went there to have repairs to my car. And they told me that my car is too old. It's prior to 2008. So I will not be able to get any loan for that.
Oh no. Oh no.
They said that it's because of new regulations. So,
This is a car you bought
yes.
or you want to buy?
Yeah, I want to buy.
Yeah. Oh my. Oh dear. So you're telling me that because of the new tax measures they brought in that are saying that you can't bring in a vehicle older than 2008, that you're now saying that the banks are now interpreting that they can't give a loan for a vehicle that is before 2008? That's unbelievable.
You're breaking up.
Yeah, I'm really interested in what you're saying, sir, and it's something that we in the opposition, regrettably, when we were arguing the floor, did not make this point because we didn't understand or we didn't think that the banks would interpret importation and bringing in vehicles to mean normal purchasing of vehicles within country. So we'll have to take up this matter, and we will try to call some of the commercial banks
Yes,
and
I think
ask
it's
about
something
this.
that, people need to know about because the bank are saying that you cannot access loans for these older vehicles.
I fail to see the connection why the banks are doing that, but if you would allow me, I will ask our comrades who are in the parliament, who are lawyers, and also to make contact with the commercial banks to find out if this is a policy direction or what is going on, because this is really a sad thing. Because we never interpreted, for us on the opposition, we never interpreted that the bringing in of the vehicles with a new age, a more recent age, would therefore mean that the banks would not give loans for vehicles being purchased within Guyana or of an older age group. So this wasn't a vehicle you were importing?
Yes.
Ah, that's why then. Yeah, okay.
So I don't know what is the connection between the bank and what the laws and whatever, but
Yeah.
they're saying that you cannot have
So you
access.
can't bring in a vehicle, because the law says you can't bring in a vehicle. Therefore, the banks would not allow you to get a loan for a vehicle you brought in. This was a vehicle that's in the country already, or you are bringing it in?
No, I have intentions of bringing it in. It's not yours yet.
Well then, no. Well then the law says that you can't, and therefore the banks will support that. I misunderstood you. So in other words, you're going to have to find more money to buy a more recent vehicle and to bring in. This is why we argued against this in the budget debate of 2016. This is madness. It'll make life much harder for ordinary people to own a vehicle, you know? So I'm sorry that this has happened to you, but we will try to still check with the banks to make sure we understand what is going on, okay?
All right.
Anyway, thank you so much. I only have a minute or two left on my program. Thank you so much for calling.
Okay.
Have a good day.
Yeah, you
Okay, I'm going to have to close off. I've got 1 minute left. And so I want to thank you very much for calling in today. I'm really interested in what you've been saying and how you feel, and also in terms of letting you know what is going on. As I said, we can't say conclusively there's going to be a toll increase, but for Damar Harbour Bridge, but if it's coming from the horse's mouth, as I would say, the Director of Public Information, who is in the Prime Minister's office, who am I to doubt that the toll increases would be made? And since we've had these other situations with ministers' salary increases and stuff, and they denied it, and then, it took place. They brought it in. So there's a pattern, and we're not sure, so we can't conclusively tell you today, yes, they're going to be, but read the writing on the wall, or, read the smoke signals. It looks as if it's going to go in that direction. And we will continue to try to find out the truth on this matter. And so we know that all these actions by the government and by the City Council in Georgetown, and we know that in other NDCs, they're going in some cases to try to increase the rates in taxes, and in others, they're trying to seize property, just like Georgetown is saying, if you haven't paid, they're threatening to take you to court to seize your property. So this is not just a Georgetown issue. But we've had a busy day, haven't we? We've had a busy program. I wish to thank you very much for listening, and I hope that you have a blessed week, and that we'll meet again next Thursday at the usual time, and that remember what I always say, don't drink and drive, please. We want to reduce the number of fatalities on the road, and we want to have you on our program. We want to hear your views, and we don't want anything bad to happen to you. So you have a blessed week, and for our Muslim friends and colleagues and sisters and brothers, we know that this is a special time of the year, and we wish you all the best, and we know that Ramadan is very special. And so with the fasting and everything else, we hope that you've had time to listen to us as well. So have a blessed week. Let's meet again next Thursday, 12:30, 1:30. Ciao. Bye-bye. Ta-ta.